Hi, parents. Thank you all so very much for allowing me to work with your students. They have been incredible. Before we play this last piece, I just want to acknowledge just a few folks. First of all, I want to thank you. I understand that it takes a lot of hard work and dedication running your kids around to rehearsals and private lessons and after-school rehearsals, and I know that all of this could not happen if it wasn't for all of your hard work and dedication. So, students on stage, if you can give your parents a nice little round of applause, I'm sure that they would appreciate it. And then, thank you, sorry, that's great, excellent. And then I also wanted to thank someone who's very special to me. He, of course, had the very esteemed honor of introducing me. Mr. Randy Box has been a longtime friend and mentor of mine. I remember whenever I was student teaching with him back in, we had a real good come to Jesus moment. I was a student teacher. I knew about this much, and I knew that I was in good hands, and I remember he allowed me to work with the wind ensemble for rehearsal. And I was so surprised at how many times I had to repeat things. I would have to say certain things like, okay, remember that we're gonna crescendo into B. We're gonna crescendo into B. And then I would have to say it over and over and over again. And I just walked into his office and I sat on the couch and I was just sitting there on my high horse like, why do I have to repeat stuff so much? I mean, this is ridiculous. And he just calmly leaned over and says, how many times do you need to hear, I love you? And I was like, oh, yeah, I guess more than once. He was like, yeah, things that are important, you need to hear it more than once. I was like, oh, yeah, I guess that makes sense. So I remember that story because I wanted to make sure that I acknowledge him and tell him thank you, because this is a repeat as well, where I get to come back and work with some fine students, especially after it's so dear to my heart because these were my stomping grounds. So, Mr. Box, thank you for repeating I love you once again and having me back. I really appreciate it. Before we conclude this portion of the concert, I just wanted to, again, acknowledge how hard these students have been working. They've been very attentive. They've learned a lot of music in just 2 days. And we've had some serious pieces and some lyrical pieces, and we wanted to end it off with this fun one. This last piece is Park Plaza Escapades, and it's really fun, and you guys are gonna fall in love with it, I'm sure, as fast as we did. If to help you get in the mindset, you should just imagine Central Park on a warm, sunny day, people are walking around, and then at the very most random moment, you're gonna see some clown, like a big 7-foot clown on this teeny little bike, just walking around. I'm pretty sure you'll hear it at the end. So this is, of course, none other than the 8th grade and 9th grade honor band. Thank you all so much for letting me work with your students. It's been a pleasure.
Oh, you don't have to clap for me. I'm not doing anything tonight but talking. So now we have the Symphonic Band on stage. The guest conductor for the Symphonic Band and the Wind Ensemble is different from what we've done in the past because usually these are old friends of mine. This is a new friend of mine. We met at the Con Selmer Music Education VIP session together October of 2016. And when we go to that, they bring in music educators from all over the country to talk about issues and initiatives in music education and to let us tour their factory, et cetera, et cetera. And they try to pair you up with somebody that you don't already know. And I got paired up with this band director from Texas. And we hit it off pretty well. And we talked a lot about how our programs are similar, how our schools are similar in a lot of ways. So this past fall, I called him up and invited him to take part in our Conductor residency, and he was able to get the time off to do it. It's been an amazing 2 days to spend time with him, to stand here in the auditorium or in the band room when he's been rehearsing and listen to him talk to the kids just like I talk to him. We hit it off well because we're very much kindred spirits, I think. It gives me great pleasure to introduce from Vista Ridge High School in Cedar Park, Texas, my good friend Bryan Christian.
I don't normally start by talking to you, but this kind of requires it. It's been my joy and my privilege and quite an honor to have been asked to be here with your kids and with Mr. Box and the staff, and I have really enjoyed my time. Very hospitable group of people, and I appreciate it very much. I feel terrible that I feel terrible. These kids have been very patient with me. I don't know if you can tell, but I've got this stuff that's going around with no fever, no flu or anything like that, but I've sounded pretty miserable. They've been very patient. But one of the reasons that I have to start by talking instead of playing first is that this piece, we're starting with a slow piece. We don't normally do that. We normally start it off with a gangbuster, and do the slow piece in the middle. But this is kind of long, and our next piece is kind of long, and we have to end with it. You just couldn't end with this piece. So I want to explain this a little bit. It's called Sleep. It's a piece that was originally, it was a brand new composition by Eric Whitaker back in the late 90s, maybe the early 2000s. And it was inspired through the poem of Robert Frost. If you've heard of this poem, Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening, that's what it was inspired through. And he was actually going to use the same lyrics. He turned it into a chorale for vocal, a choir performance, and then found out that he couldn't use those lyrics. They were copyrighted and it was not public domain, and he thought it was. So he actually asked another friend of his to write the lyrics to this piece. And so I thought I would share the poem with you, and then we'll play the band arrangement of it. It's called Sleep. It goes like this. The evening hangs beneath the moon, a silver thread on darkened dune. With closing eyes and resting head, I know that sleep is coming soon. Upon my pillow, safe in bed, 1,000 pictures fill my head. I cannot sleep, my mind's aflight, and yet my limbs seem made of lead. If there are noises in the night, a frightening shadow, flickering light, then I surrender unto sleep, where clouds of dream give second sight. What dreams may come, both dark and deep, of flying wings and soaring leap, as I surrender unto sleep, as I surrender unto sleep. We hope you enjoy Sleep by Eric Whitaker. piece is called Haven Dance. It was written by David Holsing. It's a toe tapper. I want to compliment you and your students. These guys have really risen to the challenge. That piece, though it be slow and doesn't have a lot of technical demand, it's incredibly difficult. If you're a musician, you know how difficult it is to make slow music sound good. This next piece is not difficult, but it has other challenges, and mostly it's multimeter. It's not multi-meter. It's not a foot tapper easily. So hope you enjoy it. It's kind of dance-like. Haven Dance. have one quick hand for those percussionists back there? The percussionists just love these slow pieces that they are playing on. That's what's coming up. That was called Ride, and there's a reason that it's called Ride. The composer, Mr. Samuel Hazo, was in a car going back from some clinic or something with two of our famous collegiate conductors that are pretty world-renowned, and they were just talking shop, and I think Mr. H. Robert Reynolds from the University of Michigan was driving. I think it was him, might be wrong, but one of them was driving and had a lead foot, and they were taking some windy roads, and that made him feel kind of, so you can, hopefully you kind of got that impression as we were playing that. The mix meter kind of does that for us. These kids have been fantastic to work with. They're bright-eyed and just eager to learn. They're sponges, and you've done a great job raising some wonderful kids, and very talented as well. And I thank Mr. Box again for bringing me out. This next piece is just a beautiful folk song. Percy Granger just traveled the world walking a lot of times and just jotting down folk songs that he heard being whistled or sung, and then would put them to music either on a piano or a group like this or a smaller ensemble. So this is called Ye Banks and Braes o' Bonnie Doon. I always hate it when conductors talk more than they conduct and play music, and then I come into one of these and I talk too much. But the next piece, just wanted to say it's Frederick Fresnel's favorite march. If you've heard of that name, he is one of the world most famous conductor and band conductor especially. He's done a lot of editions of marches and arrangements and things like that. He passed away probably about 15 years ago now, and this was his favorite march. He would have been 100 years old in 2014, I know that. So what does that make him now? He would have been 103, maybe? He passed away at age 90 in 2004. And this is his favorite march. The funny thing about this march, it was written by, what's the initials? E.G. Bagley? E.E.? E.E. Bagley. I couldn't remember the initials. I knew Bagley. But Mr. Bagley was sort of like a John Philip Sousa type. He had a band like that traveled a lot on trains. And he was on a train kind of in a luggage car. He wasn't in a nice part of the train. And he was composing this march. And he was probably 3/4 of the way through it and just got frustrated, wadded it up and threw it in the trash can. And his band members saw that and they really liked it. So they got it out of the trash can without him knowing, finished the arrangement, passed it out, and they're like, "Sir, we want to play this now." And they played it, and the rest is history, as they say. So I think you'll recognize some of the themes in this. It's very patriotic, obviously the name National Emblem. And we chose to end this because I wanted you to go away with a tune in your mind and your heart and tapping your toes. I hope you've enjoyed tonight's concert as much as I have this last 2 days. Thank you very much.